Happy New Year's, folks, and welcome to the premiere episode of #AskGSM of the new decade for January 1st, 2020. I am Graham GSM Matthews. Hope you guys are doing well and enjoying your New Year's. This is episode 318 to be exact. Thank you, fine folks, for sending in your questions well in advance on Monday and Tuesday. I appreciate it. I still ended up recording this on, I'm recording it right now in mid-Wednesday, much later on in New Year's Day. So I apologize for the lateness of the video, especially after last week's final episode of 2019. The final episode of the decade on Christmas Day went up at like 8 a.m. But that's because I recorded that early on New Year's Eve, or rather Christmas Eve. Today I'm recording this later on New Year's Day. It's not too big of a deal. But still, thank you guys for sending in your questions. If you would like to send in a question to the show you would like me to answer here on the show, you can do so by tweeting me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with the hashtag AskGSM. Find me on Facebook at facebook.com/Graham.GSM.Matthews. Leave a comment on the post I usually put up on Tuesday nights, if not on the wall itself. And leave your comment down below in the question, or leave your question down below, rather, in the comment section on this very video. I'll include your question in next week's edition. So real quick before we get started here, shout out to Mr. Marceau RJ for joining me and Alexis and Sal at The Wrestle Guy on Twitter for Monday Night Raw on Monday night in Hartford, the final episode of the decade. Now, as I said a couple days ago in my SmackDown review here on the channel that went up on Sunday, the days just fucking fly by, man. I'm so tired as it is, and I am just ready to relax, to be honest with you. It feels like just one thing after another is going on, more than people will probably ever understand. But you know, the grind keeps going. I love it. I enjoy it. I appreciate it. But I am looking forward to hanging back either tonight or tomorrow or Friday or whatever day this upcoming weekend, because I am fucking toast after not just December but like the entire year of 2019. More than people will ever really know. But anyway. RJ joined us for Raw on Monday. Great time. I was at the final Raw of 2009 and the final Raw of 2019, so I might just have to make it a tradition to be there for the final Raw of every decade, with the next one being on the final Monday of 2029. So hopefully that one also ends up in Hartford. But we had a great time. Hung out last night at Alexis's place to ring in the new year. Great time playing 2K20, actually. Earlier today for the first time. I did not ask for it for Christmas, but I got it anyway. And I'm glad I did, because I know there's a lot of bugs with the game. I guess there was a crash earlier on today. A lot of glitches, shit like that. Honestly, I could give two fucks. The game doesn't look great. The graphics are far from amazing. A lot worse than in recent years. But I'm just a casual gamer at best. I really don't give a fuck about that type of stuff. I don't really give a shit about games in general. But I just play these games to have a fun time. We played together, we played with her brother, and we had an amazing time gaming out to 2K20. So, I don't know if I'll have any footage up here on the channel of me playing the game. Probably not. But just wanted to share that because I enjoyed the game for what it was, and I'm looking forward to playing it more, unlocking stuff, playing the gameplay, or playing the story mode, or whatever the hell it is now. I really haven't played one of those story modes in years and years and years, but it should be fun. But anyway, let's get started here with your questions. First, from Emmanuel A. from YouTube, his first question was, I remember someone on Twitter made an interesting point about how modern wrestling is heavily catered to the hardcore fan base, with few, if any, programs trying to expand upon, or rather expand the fandom itself. Raw and SmackDown are mostly the same shows they've been for a generation. NXT and AEW Dynamite are more in-ring focused and not really concerned with being casual friendly, despite their cable TV slots. And even NWA Power is ultimately just a throwback to an era over 3 decades in the past. Does it seem like everyone is fighting over the existing and elapsed fans, but not making for new fans? You are absolutely right. You are 100% right there. I think WWE does that more than really any other company. I know NWA is kind of tailored to that older generation, but it's not like they're trying to get those fans back. To an extent, they have. But at the same time, though, I think a lot of people appreciate Power for what it is because it's so different than anything else out there. That's why I think people like Power. It's so different than what Raw and SmackDown are putting out. WWE has been doing this not for 2019, not for 2018, but for well over a decade now, where they've been tailoring their product to the casual fans of the Attitude Era, trying to get those people back that disappeared after WWE bought WCW. Those people are not coming back. The people that are watching Dynamite are, I'm telling you right now, 90% of them are not the same fans from 20 years ago. You got to make new fans. Whatever the new fans want to see in 2020, I don't know. What will make a new wrestling fan in 2020? I honestly do not know. Maybe it is the shit of the Attitude Era that you can't really do anymore, that the hardcore fan base doesn't like. Maybe it is the shit that we've been seeing with Lana and Rusev and Bobby Lashley. Maybe that's the stuff that people want to see in 2020. Maybe not us, not the hardcore viewers, but the casual fans that tune in to see what's going to happen or see what the storyline is all about. Maybe that's what wrestling fans or what people want to see to become wrestling fans in 2020. I honestly do not know, and I can't honestly tell you. But I do agree. I feel like a lot of companies, but specifically WWE, not so much NXT and Dynamite, but definitely WWE, does a terrible job of focusing on the fans of yesteryear and not focusing on the fans they have right now, which is why ratings are dwindling. NXT and Dynamite will never have, I think, the same type of exposure that Raw and SmackDown do, despite being infinitely better shows. And I know they're more in-ring focused, but at least they're trying to be different than what Raw and SmackDown are putting out, which is why they're great shows. Maybe that's not what the casual fans want to see. I think so. I know a lot of people that, will frown upon wrestling, that will see Raw, that will see SmackDown and be like, oh, this is trash. Like, why do you watch this stuff? But while I watch shows like Dynamite and specifically NXT, those same people won't say anything. If anything, they'll like that type of wrestling. They'll enjoy NXT because it's so vastly different than what Raw and SmackDown are putting out. But I do agree. As we enter this new decade, I really do hope that, all these companies, not just WWE, can do a better job of focusing, again, not only on the fans they have right now and honing in on what they want to see, but also on bringing in new fans and not just, maintaining the fans they currently have and ensuring those fans don't leave, don't stop watching, but also trying to figure out what new fans would want to see. What would make a new fan of professional wrestling in 2020? Emmanuel's second question here. Continuing on the subject, I've been thinking a lot about AEW and its ambitions. I've seen a lot of comparisons between Dynamite and TNA Impact, how AEW is going through the same phase as peak TNA did. It's not just another promotion, it's the best chance in years for there to be a strong number 2 U.S. promotion with weekly TV and everything. Because of this, people have a vested interest in it beyond this entertains me, which gets problematic as everything is judged based on that cause, and it goes both ways. Critical fans bash the latest show if it doesn't feel like things are heating up fast enough, while defending fans want to will a competitor to WWE into existence and will defend anything to preserve that image. What do you make of the issue? You said a lot with, your question is so fucking, you got to keep it simple here, people, because questions like this are so confusing. And to me, reading it isn't really that big of an issue, but, reading it out loud, I know I botch my words a lot here on the show, but, I can only imagine that the half of the people listening to this have no idea what the fuck I just said, because your question doesn't really seem to have a coherent point. It's well worded, it's well written, but you have to dumb it down to a lot of people, myself included, because, you got to get to the basic point here, because it's a good question, but I'm just saying for future reference, stuff like this, I'm not really sure what the hell you're getting at. The comparisons between TNA and AEW and Dynamite, the fact that I don't even know what the fuck your question is. I'm not even going to pretend to say that I know or pretend to claim that I know what your question is talking about. I really don't. Gets problematic as everything is judged based on that cause in both ways. I honestly have no idea what you're talking about. I'm just going to have to move on because I really do not get your question. I don't see the comparisons between TNA and Dynamite. I could see people making those comparisons, but they're two totally different companies. The in-ring action is great. The storylines are not nearly as bad. They don't really have a lot of storylines. That's kind of their issue. TNA had storylines, but they just weren't great storylines. Yes, it is the best time right now for an AEW or any other promotion to be a strong number 2 to WWE, but there are a lot of things they need to address and focus on before they can. They are the biggest competitor to WWE. That's not even an argument, really. Probably even more so than TNA was back in the day. But other than that, I don't really see much of a comparison. I think AEW's issues are completely different than that of those of TNA from over a decade ago. So again, I'm not really sure what your question is getting at. Again, reading it on paper, it seems like a fine question, but reading it out loud, I feel like I'm so confused. I'm going to have to move on here. Elena the Y from YouTube. 2019 was such a weird year for me personally, but the weirdest part of it all has been seeing the state of women's wrestling in WWE. I won't go into a tangent about women's wrestling's past or anything, but 2019 is a year that suggests so much progress has been made, yet still frustratingly feels regressive. Yeah, women main evented WrestleMania for the first time ever, more on that later, but it's also quite coincidental that Ronda Rousey is done with them. WWE's quieted down to the Women's Revolution. No third Mae Young Classic, no second Evolution pay-per-view, but hey, Natalya and Lacey Evans fought for 7 minutes in Saudi Arabia. That's just as good, right? Again, kind of the same thing here, very wordy, but I understand what your question is getting at. About how far we've come with the women's evolution really in the last decade. It's been a good year, I think, for WWE. Not a bad year. It's been a very up and down year, not the best year in recent memory. But with women's wrestling specifically in 2019, specifically with WWE, I 100% agree. They main evented WrestleMania, but I feel like that was the peak of the women's evolution. Not to say they can't go farther than that. They absolutely could. They have the talent. They have the platform. They absolutely could go farther than they did. The issue is that I feel like after Ronda Rousey left, they put all their eggs in that basket and they just stopped caring about everyone else. Yeah, they still have the 4 horsewomen, but I've said this a million times, they need more women beyond them. And they do have those women. They're just not focusing on those women. And Lana and Liv Morgan and their lesbian storyline is not the answer. I will tell you right out of the fucking gate. That is not what I'm talking about. When Ronda Rousey left, they stopped giving a big shit about their women's division. Like, there is no doubt about it at all. Yeah, they had the Saudi Arabia thing, but what else have the women really done in 2019 aside from the women's main event that felt as big? Yeah, Becky Lynch is very popular. She was on the cover of the 2K20 video game that no one's bought, aside from my mom, apparently, for myself for Christmas. And she's really popular, and Bayley's undergone a great heel turn. I thought she had a great 2019. But aside from the Sasha-Becky Hell in a Cell match, and I'm not talking about NXT, because NXT had a great women's division in 2019. I thought their women's division was better than it's ever been, including the years of the 4 horsewomen years ago. I thought they had a really, really good 2019. But for the main roster, though, like you said, no Evolution, which was hands down the best pay-per-view WWE produced in 2018. No Mae Young Classic, which I thought was very strange. Just a lot of Sasha left. They brought in the women's tag team titles. Who the fuck cares? That's not a part of the evolution. Oh, we willed that into existence. Who cares? Was anyone really asking for women's tag team titles? I know it's been in the works now for a long time. It's been rumored for years. Who the fuck really cares? Honestly, the titles mean nothing. They have some good women's tag teams, but that's not to say you should create women's tag team titles. And it's not a women thing either. They have a lot of good trios. Does that mean they need 6-man tag team titles? No. No, they don't. A lot like Ring of Honor does not need 6-man tag team titles. Neither does WWE. Why would anyone need 6-man tag team titles? Maybe New Japan with the roster they have and they treat those trios like fucking, gods over there. Not in WWE. Not in Ring of Honor. So why do it, But with the women's division on the whole in 2019, I totally agree. They took a big, giant step backward. It felt like every year from 2015, or really even 2014 onward, they were progressively getting bigger and better with the women. 2010 through 2013, I would say, were complete throwaway years for the Divas division. Aside from the AJ Lee stuff and the Caitlyn feud, which I thought was great back in 2013, late 2012. Aside from that and Eve Torres doing some good work, the Divas division was a complete fucking wash from 2010 to 2013. So you could just throw those years out the window. 2014 and beyond, we had the NXT stuff in NXT stuff in 2014 really come a long way. That really changed the perception of how people view, the perception of women's wrestling in WWE, how people view women's wrestling and how big of a priority it really should be on the main roster. 2015, because of the NXT stuff, and I guarantee without those matches in NXT, WWE absolutely would not have changed their ways with the women in 2015 the way they did, with the women's evolution, or the Divas Revolution, whatever the fuck. They brought up Charlotte, they brought up Sasha, they brought up Becky. A lot of cool moments for the women in 2015. 2016 was even bigger, the best year yet. They main evented their very first pay-per-view at Hell in a Cell. They brought back the women's division, not the Divas division, the women's division. Brought up even more people from NXT, had some amazing matches. It was a really, really strong year for the women's division in 2016. 2017, just as big, if not even bigger. The first ever women's Money in the Bank ladder match, main eventing Raw shows, main eventing SmackDown shows on the regular, to the point where it really didn't even feel like a big deal anymore, and I say that as a good thing. 2018, they brought in Ronda Rousey. They main evented the Royal Rumble pay-per-view. They main evented more pay-per-views later on in the year. They had their first ever women's Royal Rumble match. A lot of great moments and matches with the women on Raw and SmackDown last year. Then this year, after Ronda left, it went down a fucking cliff. Sasha went heel, cool. Bayley went heel, cool. Becky's really popular. Charlotte's been doing her thing, winning titles and whatnot. But it doesn't really feel like they've gone further than they did. Was the main event of WrestleMania their peak? That's my question to you. I don't think it is. I think not just because, we main evented WrestleMania. We can't get much bigger and better than that. We can't get any bigger or better than that. That's false. Because they still get very little minimal television time every single week. It feels like we've reverted back to the days of the early women's division in 2015, even 2016, where the women would get only a couple minutes for their matches, and not as much time as they were getting even a year ago. They need to get back to that before they can go further than they did. And Ronda Rousey's departure, like you said, played a big part in that. It's not a Ronda Rousey issue. That's more of a WWE issue. And the fact that they put all their eggs in that one basket, and after she left, they just stopped giving a shit. That's not the way that it should be. It was good before Ronda. It can be great or even better after Ronda. Let's see. Elena's second question here. I'm just going to say it. Becky, Charlotte, Ronda was a disappointing WrestleMania main event and one of my least favorite of all 35 WrestleMania main events. That's saying a lot there. All three of them tried, but the crowd was dead after a long night, which I can attest to because I was there. The finish was botched, and it should have just been Becky and Ronda 1v1 to begin with. 2018 made it seem like nothing could keep Becky Lynch down or cool her off, and WWE spent most of 2019 keeping her down and cooling her off. And there's no bigger example than Becky having to beat Ronda through a roll-up pin that didn't even work properly. Be honest. How do you think you're going to remember the WrestleMania 35 main event years from now? I thought it was a good match. Now, you made a lot of good points there. You made a lot of points I don't agree with. I thought the match was good. The thing is, again, this is not saying a lot. How will I remember the match years down the road? I'm not going to sit here and say after Alexis and I went to that WrestleMania, we watched that match, Alexis said, I want to become a women's wrestler. I want to main event at WrestleMania. Absolutely not. It wasn't like, it didn't have an emotional, it didn't resonate that way with me. I thought it was amazing they main event at WrestleMania. I'm glad they did. We would be sitting here right now, I guarantee you, if they didn't, bitching about the fact that they didn't and that this was the year to do it and they should have and they did it. So congrats to WWE for doing that much. The match itself isn't really so much the company's fault. You're right, it should have been Becky and Ronda one-on-one. Charlotte being in there took away from the match. People say that it added to the match. I think it took away from the match. She should not have been in there. She was already feuding with Ronda. She was already feuding with Becky. I get it. But the match did not need her. The match that people wanted to see was Ronda versus Becky one-on-one. No Charlotte Flair. As a match, I thought it was very good. Was it a great match? Was it the greatest WrestleMania main event of all time? Not even close. At the same time, and again, this isn't saying much, it was the best WrestleMania main event since Mania 31 4 years ago. Last year we had Roman and Brock at WrestleMania 34, which fucking sucked. I don't care what anyone says. That match was terrible. The year before that, Taker and Roman, which I defended at the time. In retrospect, it sucked. Not a good match. Storytelling, I guess it was okay, but not a great match at all. 32, Roman and Triple H. Probably better than the other two matches, but still not great at all. Very boring. And then 31, we had the first Roman and Brock main event, which I thought was great. I thought it was an amazing main event between the Rollins cash-in, the drama with Roman and Brock resigning. The whole thing was great. 30 also had a great main event of Bryan and Batista and Orton for the World Heavyweight WWE Championship, the undisputed title. And the main event of WrestleMania 31, amazing shit there. So yeah, overall I thought, this main event of WrestleMania for 2019 was the best in the past 4 or 5 years. Again, not saying much. Overall, how will I view it? Probably on the same level as, I don't know, it was kind of middle of the road. I feel like there's a lot of bad Mania main events and a lot of great ones. Like, I thought the 30 and 31 ones were great. 29 sucked with Cena and Rock. 28 with Cena and Rock, number 1, I thought was very good. That wasn't really middle of the road. I thought that was the perfect match to do. 27, Cena and Miz sucked. 26, Shawn Michaels and Triple H was amazing. 25, Triple H and Orton sucked. 24, Edge and Taker would probably be a good example. I got a great match, better than this one, but kind of middle of the road compared to every other Mania main event in the past 10, 15 years. So how will I remember it? Probably like that. Becky got her big win, which is really all that really mattered, to be honest with you. The women main event to WrestleMania, as they should have. And the match wasn't bad. Honestly, that's all I really ask for. I don't really set my hopes up too high, but I do agree if you want to be nitpicky, the match should have been Becky and Ronda, and the match could have absolutely been better. Elena's next question here. I have to mention NXT because, yes, things are better there. Rhea Ripley, Io Shirai, Candice LeRae, Shayna Baszler, Bianca Belair, Dakota Kai are all doing well, not to mention Kaylee Ray, Toni Storm, and Piper Niven over in NXT UK. But if anything, the division feels incredibly overstuffed, and now that NXT is officially recognized as a third brand, what is WWE going to do with all of them? Are they still going to move up to Raw and SmackDown? Is the NXT women's division just going to get more and more crowded as the new women debut and new women get signed? I feel like that's a very nitpicky thing to say. Oh, it's overstuffed. Like, this is their biggest issue. If that's their biggest problem, they're doing pretty well right now. Because you're right, they are a third brand, but that's exactly why they need these women. That's why they need these women on the show. Because they are a third brand. And you can't keep doing fucking Shayna Baszler and Rhea Ripley forever. You need more women, and they have those women waiting in the wings. Like a Santana Garrett is a fucking glorified stepping stone right now in that division. That's how many women they have. That's how big the roster NXT is. That's how big of a roster they have, which is good in some respects. In other respects, some certain people will not get the time they deserve because the spotlight is on people like Sheena and Ripley and Dakota Kai and people like that. But like a Bianca Belair, for example, she has not really done much in the past month or two, if not longer than that. She feels stale because she's already gone for the championship multiple times. She lost multiple times. She shouldn't win the championship at this point. I think she should move up to Raw or SmackDown or move across to Raw or SmackDown, as one would argue. There's really nothing left for her to do in NXT. But treat it like Raw and SmackDown. I'm not saying move half of the women's division from Raw or SmackDown to NXT, but a lot like Balor. Move someone from either of those two shows over to NXT. Same thing with NXT UK. A Toni Storm or a Rhea Ripley who did everything they could do in NXT UK. They moved on over to NXT, and they've done really well for themselves ever since. Move some people over to NXT UK. Move people from Raw and SmackDown over to NXT. Move people from NXT over to Raw or SmackDown. Put Io Shirai with the Kabuki Warriors if you want. Put Bianca Belair on Raw with her husband. Put, I'm not really sure if anyone else needs to be moved up right now, but Shayna Baszler. She could be moved up to Raw any day now. They really need some variety on that show over on Raw. Maybe even on SmackDown too. But I think the main roster needs those women more. And NXT's women's division, they've killed it. They killed it in 2019, had their best year yet. Some amazing matches, great title reign from Shayna Baszler. Some great new fresh faces. I really loved women's wrestling in NXT in 2019. Will they stay there forever? Obviously not. They'll have to move to a different show eventually. But in return, either assign new people, and they have a lot of people they have yet to debut on the show. People like Indy Hartwell, Shotzi Blackheart, who was on the show last week. Chelsea Green, who might be being moved up to the main roster. She was on main event this week and won. Spoiler alert, but no one watches the show anyway, so who cares? They might be fast-tracking her to the main roster. Deanna Purrazzo is waiting in the wings right now over in the NXT Performance Center. They have a lot of people who have yet to have shown up on the NXT women's division that could be ushered in when other people move to other shows. So that's not really much of a concern for me personally. They have a great division, and it will only continue to be great, if not better, in the months and years ahead. Call me PSN from YouTube. My throat is fucking killing me right now. I guess that's what I get for doing a fucking hour-long Q&A video here. But the thing is, it hurt after Raw on Monday. Felt better yesterday. Hurt a little this morning. Felt better after that. And I guess it's after talking so much that my throat hurts. I just got to shut the fuck up after this video's done. But anyway, Call Me PSN's comment was, Who is more out of touch with today's wrestling audience, Vince Russo or Jim Cornette? That's a great question. Man. I like to say Vince just because he's running a big company and should be in better touch than he is. I mean, with Jim, the guy just doesn't get it. I mean, he's entitled to his opinion. It's not that he's out of touch. It's just that he doesn't really like certain shit. With Vince, when he gets it right, he gets it right. But there is a lot of stuff he just is not, it's not clicking with him because he's so old, he's out of touch. I'm going to say Vince. With Jim, I mean, it may be a lot worse if he was running a wrestling company like Vince is at the moment. I guess we won't know because no one would hire him in 2020. But at least with his opinions, yeah, he's out of touch, but they're just opinions. He's not running a wrestling company. It doesn't really matter. Vince has opinions too. They're just shit opinions, and they should be better opinions because he's running a wrestling company. So I will say Vince. Jim Cornette just has really bad taste in certain people. I mean, some of it isn't completely unjustified. People like Marco Stunt could give two shits about that fucking clown. But I like Orange Cassidy. He hates Orange Cassidy. So again, tomato, tomato. But I'm going to say Vince here. Thomas B. from Facebook. Who do you see being as a potential challenger for Roderick Strong's NXT North American Championship at TakeOver Portland? Good question. I want to say the Velveteen Dream if he's back by then, because he never got his rematch of the championship. Many months ago when he got hurt, he hurt his back. I've heard no update on Velveteen Dream. He could be back next week on the show. I guess we won't know until it happens. But they got, I think, 3 episodes of NXT left before TakeOver. Tonight doesn't count because it's not going live tonight. They're doing a recap show. They have a show next week on the 8th, on the 15th and 22nd, and then the Rumble weekend with the Worlds Collide shit. Oh, I'm sorry. You said TakeOver in Portland, so he won't be defending it there anyway. They're Imperium's facing Undisputed Era, so that doesn't even matter. At TakeOver Portland, and that's in mid-February, so they had time for that one. I want to say Velveteen Dream. If not, Kushida. Kushida, you could build him back up, give him some key wins. Him and Strong for that championship would be a lot of fun, and I think Kushida would be the perfect person to take that championship from Roderick Strong, if not Keith Lee. Keith Lee did pin Roddy a couple months ago. And I know he almost got the number 1 contender shot at the NXT Championship and fell short. He could get the NXT title shot in Portland, if not Tommaso Ciampa. That's my pick. If it's Ciampa and Cole for the NXT Championship in Portland, then Strong and Lee should be the NXT North American Championship match. If it's Adam Cole and Keith Lee, then it should be Roderick Strong and Kushida for the NXT North American Championship. There's a lot of great options there. It could be Matt Riddle. There's a lot of different options. Because Roddy, I mean, he just won the championship, 3-4 months ago, but he's only scratched the surface in terms of people he could face for that title. At Reborn Again, John Ritland from the YouTube channel, Real Honesty with John Ritland, great YouTube channel, so check it out at your convenience. His question was, so what are your thoughts on Survivor Series possibly being in Dallas next year and the 2020 Rumble being in Seattle? I love it. I actually tweeted out a couple days ago, Alexis and I a year from now may be planning our trip for the Royal Rumble weekend in Seattle. We've never been to Washington before. She's been to California. I've been to California. I've been to Vegas before for Double or Nothing last year. Never Seattle, never Washington. And that would be a great opportunity to do it. She's never been to a Rumble. She wants to go to a Rumble. This year, I forgot honestly where it is. I don't remember. We're not going this year. But next year would be cool. So hopefully it is in Seattle, and we can end up going. Survivor Series being in Dallas is another one. I've never been to a wrestling show before. I've never really even been to Dallas, to be honest with you. It might be a toss-up between the two, because I've never been to Survivor Series. She hasn't either. And we've also never been to Dallas. I've been to the airport there before, but I don't really count that. So other than that, I've never really been to Dallas. In November, while it's cold here, probably hot there. It'd be a nice little getaway from the Northeast. So that's an option too. We'll probably end up going to the Rumble, and I do have friends in Texas that would be cool to meet. But at any rate, I think it'd be awesome if we could end up going to the Rumble and meeting you, John Ritland, if you end up going. I think that'd be great. His next question, what are 5 movies you're most looking forward to in 2020? I think I answered this a couple of weeks ago. I definitely answered this a few weeks ago, but off the top of my head, I'm looking forward to No Time to Die, the new 007 movie. I love those movies, so I'm looking forward to that in April. Halloween Kills, the Halloween movie. That's coming out, I believe, in October. Looking forward to that. Venom 2, that ends up becoming a thing next year. I'm not sure if that's confirmed or not. I've heard nothing about it. I thought it was, but I guess not. I know Black Widow's coming out next year. That should be good. I'm not really overly anticipating it, but it is what it is. Honestly, it doesn't really seem like there's a lot of big movies coming out next year. I kind of saw everything that I wanted to in 2019, except for Jumanji 2, which I'm probably going to go see Friday. Other than that, I don't really know. I already answered this question, so again, you're going to have to go back a few episodes for me to answer what movies I'm looking forward to most. I went through the list of movies coming out in 2020, and I said to myself, I'm looking forward to this, I'm looking forward to that. And I talked about them here on the show. I don't remember what they were in retrospect, though. But I know one was No Time to Die, and another was Halloween Kills. I almost said Halloween Town. That would be interesting. Halloween Kills, and the other one being Venom 2. The other two I don't remember. I'm trying to think what's coming out. The Matrix? Is that 2020 or 2021? I don't remember. I thought 2019 was a great year for movies. 2020, it doesn't really feel like there's a lot out, to be honest with you. At least movies that I'm overly looking forward to, that I'm overly excited for. John's next question: can AEW bounce back from that horrible ending with the Dark Order, or is this a sign of things to come with the promotion? Absolutely, they can bounce back. I didn't hate the ending as much as many other people did. I thought it was fine. I don't mind the Dark Order. They've grown on me with the vignettes they've been running in recent weeks. I think they've been done pretty well. That ending wasn't great. It wasn't terrible. I've seen worse. And I think those punches from that mystery dude, the masked dude, was not great either. That was kind of embarrassing. But at any rate, I thought it was a fine ending. It's not all doom and gloom for AEW. They can always bounce back with a good show tonight. I'm recording this before Dynamite tonight, so you'll probably be listening to this after Dynamite tonight. Hopefully it's a better ending than what we got 2 weeks ago. But I imagine it will be, just because the Dark Order, they're not great, but they are growing on me. Any ending with the Dark Order is not ideal, obviously, but it's not the end of AEW by any stretch. Don't get yourself twisted here. It's not that big of a deal. At Time Bomb Zone from Twitter, their first question was, thoughts on the overall Wrestle Kingdom card? Well, I have no idea what it is. Arjun and I were just discussing this the other day about how people ask me so many New Japan comments and questions. I do not watch New Japan. I don't. I casually will sometimes watch Wrestle Kingdom once a year, and that's it. That's all I'll watch. The card I know consists of Ibushi and Okada Night 1, and then Jay White and Naito, for the Intercontinental title, also on Night 1. And the winners of both matches will meet for both belts, the IWGP Heavyweight Championship and the IWGP Intercontinental title on Sunday. I'm sold on those two matches alone. I honestly don't even really care what the other matches on that card are. I know Lance Archer is facing Jon Moxley in a street fight, I think, for that U.S. title, which is pretty cool, before the winner defends against Juice Robinson on Sunday. I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, for those matches anyway. I don't really know much else about the card, and I don't really care to go out of my way to watch it, or rather to go check out the card, but I probably will check out those matches because they do have the potential to be really, really good. Ibushi and Okada especially sounds fucking awesome on paper. His second question: if the 2-day Wrestle Kingdom is successful, could you see WWE doing a 2-day WrestleMania? I can't. I mean, good on them for doing a 2-day Wrestle Kingdom. I think that's very smart. The show's really fucking long, but I just can't see WWE doing something similar. Maybe they will in the 2020s, and I'm just, I'm far off here. But I think WWE likes the idea of building around one big night. The Super Bowl is in 2 days, and obviously the Super Bowl isn't as long as WrestleMania, but just start the fucking show earlier. Start it earlier. Why end around 12:30 when you can end around 11 or 10 by starting an hour or two earlier? Fuck the kickoff. Just start the entire show earlier. That's all I got to say about that. I don't think they'll ever do that by doing a 2-day WrestleMania, nor do I even really want to see that happen, because it gives them an excuse to add more meaningless matches to the card. If done the right way like New Japan, it could be really, really good. I'm sure it will be well done this weekend. With WWE, I don't have enough faith they would do the right thing with them in this circumstance with the WrestleMania thing being 2 days. So no, I don't see them ever doing it, but hopefully it does fare well for Wrestle Kingdom and New Japan, because it sounds like a really good idea on paper if executed properly. Do I think WWE would execute it properly? Probably not. His next question: what does WWE need to do to make the main roster worth watching again? More variety, better storylines, just use more people. You know, I like the idea of the brand split, but like, the best thing going on SmackDown right now is Mandy Rose and Otis. Like, come on. They have some other stories, I just don't give a fuck. The Bryan and Wyatt stuff is good, but like, Mandy and Otis have a compelling storyline right now. It writes itself. Why aren't there other entertaining storylines right now in WWE? That's not the fault of the talent. They're just trying to make the most of what they have, you know? Both shows need to have a better focus and more of a focus on the storytelling. They have good matches. They should have better matches on the shows every week. There's usually one or two really good ones, and that's about it. Have better matches, which they were doing a better job of for a time before they stopped doing it for whatever reason. And focus more on good storylines. The whole fucking shit with Rusev, Lashley, and Lana is not a good storyline. I will tell you right off the bat. That is fucking bullshit. Escape the formulaic nature of the shows and people will start watching again. Not overnight, but less of the bullshit, and try to, again, going full circle here with what we said earlier with Emmanuel's question, try to bring in new fans. Those old fans are never coming back. So fuck them, forget about them. Make new fans. That's what they did 20 years ago, and it paid off pretty well. I'm not saying appease to that audience of the Attitude Era, but just try to make a product that all fans can enjoy and follow with ease, without thinking too much into it and without it getting too complicated. At noob_n_co1991, their question was, which WWE superstars do you want to see their contracts extend into 2020? Or which superstars' contracts do you want to see extended in 2020 is basically what he's asking here. Excuse me, I'm pretty congested for some reason. It comes and goes for whatever reason. The only contract, there's a few different contracts I know expire next year. The Revival, Rey Mysterio, I believe, had an 18-month out clause if he wanted it, which might be up in the next couple months. And then the Hardy Boys. I'm not sure about Jet's contract because he was hurt. Matt's contract is definitely up in the next couple of months. I think he should stay. I really want to see him stay in WWE, end his career where he started it. The issue is they got to do more with him. I'm not saying make him the WWE champion, make him the Universal champion, bring back the Wilkins stuff, whatever. Just use the guy. Don't have him go out there and lose and do nothing. Like, people still really enjoy the Hardy Boys. So don't fucking waste them. Do more with Matt. Do more with Jeff when he's good to go again. That's all I ask. Because I think Matt is a very valuable asset to any company he's a part of, and the fact they're wasting him right now is so fucking frustrating. Rey Mysterio. I think Rey Mysterio should stick around in WWE. I think he's had a pretty good run for himself. He came back in the Rumble 2 years ago. Had an amazing surprise return. I thought that was great. Was on SmackDown for a little bit. Had some good feuds over there. Won 2 United States championships. And is now doing his thing with Seth Rollins and his son and is involved. And he's had a pretty good 2019 overall. Rey Mysterio has. So, yeah, Rey Mysterio, I'd love to see him stick around. Same thing, though. I would like to see him end his career in WWE, the same place where he started it. The Revival can just get the fuck out. I love the Revival, but they should absolutely not extend their contracts in 2020. That would be the absolute dumbest thing they can do, unless they're making millions upon millions of dollars. I would still say leave for AEW. You would get a nice contract. We know his shit. We're sure as shit they're not happy in WWE. Just fucking leave. Go elsewhere. Be utilized to your full potential in another promotion. At Iwagu91, their first question was, if King Corbin were to become world champion this coming year, would his title reign be not so different from Jinder Mahal in terms of ratings and attendance plummeting, albeit not that severely? With Jinder, I honestly can't tell you that ratings were way down from what they were before. They were down when AJ was champion. It's not really just a Jinder thing. To play devil's advocate here, because the Jinder title run was a massive failure. My thing is, did he have good matches? No. Did he elevate anybody? No. If anything, he actually took away the momentum from certain people like Shinsuke Nakamura. So no. Is Jinder any better off now than he was before the title reign? No, he's not. The guy's been hurt for the last 6 months. But even prior to that, they were doing nothing with Jinder Mahal. He won the U.S. title for a cup of coffee. They have done nothing with the guy since. So, no, that whole thing was a massive failure. The ratings and attendance may not have been as great as they were, years before that or after that. But still, I don't really think that's a Jinder issue. That's more so the WWE just not doing that good of a job of maintaining their current audience. Because it's not like the ratings are better, much better now that Jinder is no longer a champion, If Baron Corbin became champion, would it have a similar effect? Yeah, in terms of criticism, it would. Among fans. I really like Baron Corbin. I like the guy. I think he's a very good heel. They book him the wrong way. The King Corbin shit just is not clicking with me. I thought he did a very good job in the King of the Ring tournament a couple months ago. But other than that, he really has not been... again, he's picked up some key wins. It's not like he's been booked like shit. But how they portray him, they could do a better job with Baron Corbin than they have. So, I don't know if it would have as negative of effect as Jinder, when he was champion. But to their credit, at least they tried with Jinder. He was a fresher face in the main event scene. I feel like I've seen Baron Corbin already in the main event scene for years now. Because it's overstayed its welcome. So again, with Baron... would it be a massive failure? I don't know. I don't think so. I wouldn't do it anytime soon, though. The guy's a fucking joke right now. I know he beat Roman at TLC. He beat him on SmackDown before that. He's riding a current wave of momentum. But that's not a reason to put the championship on the guy. He's really, really good. I think he's good. I enjoy Baron Corbin. But that's not a reason to put the top title on him. I feel like that'd be a fucking massive mistake, and it would only backfire. His next question... do you think that the Inner Circle should have a female member if they want to have a women's champion in their group? I'm going to say no. A lot like Undisputed Era, they don't need a female. Not every stable needs a female. If they can find someone who fits the mold, then sure. If not, then no. Don't force someone into that spot like a fucking Nyla Rose or a Britt Baker to kind of play off of Adam Cole being in the Undisputed Era. It's not necessary. So no, I don't think they need a female member. A lot like the Undisputed Era does not need a female member. It's not like, we need to have, a female member of this group or that group. Just create your own female stable. It's as simple as that, But no, they do not need a female member at all. His third question. Before his unexpected death, was Eddie Guerrero supposed to win the World Heavyweight Championship, or was Randy Orton supposed to? If it was Orton, I've heard conflicting reports. I've heard that Eddie was supposed to win the championship back in 2005. I think either it's Survivor Series or another show. I've read that Orton was supposed to become the champion around that time. And I've also read that they were supposed to do Batista and Eddie, but Batista retaining. So I'm not really sure what the plan was. I guess we'll never really know for certain. But with Eddie, though, I think there was a good chance, but I feel like if they were going to put the championship on him, they probably would have done it at the No Mercy pay-per-view. I don't think Eddie was going to win it. I really don't. I think Batista would have retained if the feud continued, which I think it did after that No Mercy show in October between Batista and Eddie. I think they were always going to have him drop it, Batista that is, to Randy Orton at the WrestleMania pay-per-view the subsequent spring. So probably WrestleMania, what was that, 22? I think they teased it at one point earlier on in 2005, maybe, if not earlier on in 2006. I think that match at WrestleMania was supposed to be Batista and Orton for the World Heavyweight Championship. Probably with Orton winning the Royal Rumble. And then obviously Eddie died, and that changed plans. But yeah. I don't think Eddie was ever supposed to win the World Heavyweight Championship. He had his run in 2004. If he was going to win it, he would have won it by late 2005 already. They wouldn't have waited till Survivor Series. I think Orton was always supposed to win the championship from Batista, probably at WrestleMania by winning the Rumble a couple months before that. And when the Eddie thing happened, they obviously changed their plans. And Orton, again, for the second straight year, got fucked out of winning the World Championship at WrestleMania. Because remember, Orton was originally penciled in to win that World Championship from Triple H at WrestleMania 21. And then Batista got hot, so they changed plans. So, poor Orton. Anyway, Jeremy 8911, or rather, a couple, prediction questions here. First from Mr. Marceau, at RG_Marceau on the Twitter machine. Any bold predictions for any wrestling company in 2020? I hate questions like this because, first of all, everyone asks them. Second of all, I'm not good at predictions. What's my big prediction for 2020? Just put on a good fucking show. I honestly have no idea. I really don't, because it's one of those things where we can expect everything and anything. And if I do have a bold prediction, I'll say it. Like, I think Keith Lee could win the Royal Rumble. That's my big prediction for 2020. Keith Lee is winning the 2020 Royal Rumble. Either him or Matt Riddle, probably Keith Lee. So I'll say that. At Farron's53, who will be the first person to win their first World Championship in 2020? Again, I have no idea. Let's say MJF. I think MJF will win his first World Championship in the form of the AEW World Championship in AEW. WWE, I have no idea. Maybe Aleister Black, if they push him the right way. Maybe. McIntyre, I would love to say, but I feel like that's not just too obvious, but I feel like if they were going to put the championship on him, they would have done it already. Not to say they never will, but like, he should have been world champion last year, you know? But anyway, I'll say MJF. At Jeremy8911 from Twitter, WWE predictions for 2020. Same thing. I don't have any. I have none. I do this every year. I'm not good at predictions. I'm good at like review shit and like, oh, this is good, that's good, blah, blah, blah. I'm not good with like, oh, this is going to happen in 2020, I think. I said Keith Lee will win the 2020 Royal Rumble. And I was saying that well before anyone else. I've been saying that since the day after Survivor Series, that he was winning the Royal Rumble. Not since the reports came out like, oh, NXT will be in the Rumble. No fucking shit. They're always in the Rumble. They've been a part of the Rumble for like 6-7 years now. Anyway, I'll say Keith Lee wins the 2020 Men's Royal Rumble match, if not Shayna Baszler winning the Women's Royal Rumble match. We won't get both. Probably Shayna wins, but there's a possibility Keith Lee wins too. I think they will finally, this is going off on a limb here, I think they will finally break up the New Day in 2020. After 6 years, over 5 years, almost 6, in 2020. God, I have no idea. I think they'll call up Bianca Belair and put the championship on her. I'll call that right now. I think Ronda Rousey will not return. I don't think she'll be back for WrestleMania. I don't think she'll be back at all. I do not think Ronda Rousey will be back in WWE in 2020. That's another bold prediction, I guess. To go off of RJ's question from earlier. Tag teams. I think the Revival will leave. Not really a bold prediction. I know you're not asking for bold predictions, but that's another prediction. The Revival will leave. I think Rusev will re-sign. I know Lana did. I think Rusev will too. I think that's kind of a given at this point, given how they've prominently featured his storyline as of late. I think the United States Championship getting redesigned is only inevitable. That's been in the works for a while now, I believe. I think NXT will have an NXT Championship match at WrestleMania. I do. I know that's been rumored. I think that will come to fruition. I think, God, I don't even know. Not even sure. I do think Hall of Fame shit. I don't know. We'll just stick with those predictions for right now. If I come up with anything else before the end of the episode, I'll spew them out. But as of right now, those are my predictions for 2020 in WWE. And we'll go back on these predictions a year from now and say to ourselves, wow, he was way off. He could not have been any more wrong. At Scarlet1 from Twitter, did you hear about the stipulation in Chris Jericho's Wrestle Kingdom 14 match with Hiroshi Tanahashi, where if Tanahashi wins, he will get a shot at the AEW Championship? I did hear about that, which is pretty fucking cool. It adds more unpredictability to the match of the pay-per-view, which I completely forgot, by the way, when I was talking about the Wrestle Kingdom matches earlier. I forgot to mention Jericho and Tanahashi, which also should be really, really good. But adding that stipulation on there is smart, because I think a lot of people just figured Tanahashi would win, and that would be it. Jericho, I think, needs to win. I think Jericho wins here. Tanahashi does not need this win as much as Jericho does, I would argue. And I don't think they're setting up a rematch of the AEW World Championship, because I think Jericho's winning, that's why. Did you hear about AEW's plan to reset win-loss records? I did hear about that. They tweaked it a little bit. So they said a while ago that they're resetting the records at the beginning of each year, which I'm not a big fan of, but they did clarify later on in the article that you sent me, which I already knew about, but they had said in the article that, and their Twitter and whatnot on AEW Wrestling, that they will still have cumulative records, or cumulative, whatever the fucking word is, where they have overall records for their careers, where they will still have annual records, which are important, but they will have career stats too, like similar, no different than any other baseball player, football player, whatever. They'll have their stats for the season, but they'll also have their overall stats for their entire career in any given, MLB, NFL, whatever, in any given organization. And AEW will be no different. So I like that. I wouldn't always reset them, but I feel like you kind of have to when you bring in new people like a Marty Scurll, and his record is going to be a 0-0-0. So resetting the records is smart. We've only really had the records, to be honest, since October with Dynamite, so I would have waited a little longer before resetting them until like after Double or Nothing or something. Excuse me. Again, my nose is just getting congested out of nowhere. I think Alexis got me sick or whatever. It's not too bad, but it's hard to like speak when I can't breathe through my nose. But anyway, yeah, I think they should have waited a little longer because Dynamite only became a thing a couple months ago. So we haven't really had a chance to get used to the current win-loss records before they've reset them, but it's not a bad idea, and it does keep things fresh, so I don't really mind it too much at all. Did you hear about the recent revelations regarding Lara Sullivan's past? I mean, yeah, obviously I heard about it. I didn't comment on it on Twitter. I saw it. You would have had to have been living under a rock to have not heard about it on Twitter the other day, or social media, whatever. It was trending on Twitter, I think on Saturday or Sunday, whatever. I think Sunday. No, it was Saturday night that it was trending on Twitter. You had to have been living under a rock to have not heard about it, so you obviously heard about it, but who cares? Like, I didn't go out of my way to see anything or read more about it. I don't really give a shit. I was curious why he was trending, which was my own mistake for looking up on that, for like following up on it. I didn't look anything up. I didn't see any pictures or videos. Who gives a fuck? It's his fucking past. Who gives a shit? If he did something recently, it might be a bit more newsworthy, but a lot like the Page thing. I mean, like, that was a whole big thing, because that was a lot more recent. I don't know how recent these videos are. Obviously, before he joined WWE, like, this is going back at least maybe 10 years, because he joined WWE in, 2012, 2013? So this is a long time ago. The Page thing was a bit more recent, because it came out in 2017, and the videos were from, 2013, 2014. So they were relatively recent. These are not recent. Not that it even matters. It's his past. I'm sure he's embarrassed by it. Embarrassed by it. I believe he deleted his Twitter. Who cares? Who gives a shit? People are just looking for more reasons to not like Lara Sullivan. I know he said some homophobic shit online years ago again, which again is also part of his past that he's probably not proud of, nor should he, because that's disgusting. But about the comments and the other thing, I guess, too, that applies to that as well. I don't really care. If it's not recent, not to say that he should be, praised or whatever, he should apologize and move the fuck on. That's really all I got to say about that, to be honest with you. There really is not much more to it than that. It's not a big ordeal. People, got over it within, a day. So, again, it's not a big hot news item. Who gives a shit? Last question of the day for the first episode of 2020. What does the decade of 2010 to 2019 mean to you? That's a great question to end on here. Not that it really means anything. I mean, I appreciate every day, regardless of the day, month, year, whatever. I mean, I'm the first person to say, oh, this happened in this year, this was a great year, this wasn't as great for wrestling, blah, blah, blah. I mean, personally, professionally, whatever, wrestling-wise, it was a great year. The entire decade was a great decade, 2010 through 2019. I started watching wrestling in 2008, but obviously a majority of my wrestling viewing came in the last decade. In those first 2 years, I was barely even really watching. I was watching every episode of Raw and SmackDown, but I wasn't really aware of what else was out there. I was watching TNA and other stuff like that. No Ring of Honor, never any New Japan, shit like that, so I'm very happy for that. I got to know a lot of great people through wrestling in 2010s and the 2010s. I created my Twitter in late 2009, mid-2009, so I was on social media for the entire decade, the ups and the downs and everything else in between. Started writing for Bleacher Report in 2010, created Next Day Wrestling in 2010, started on YouTube in 2009. So again, really, my entire career, professionally and personally, came in the last decade. So it means a lot to me. It will probably forever be the biggest decade of my life until, the next decade knocks it out of the park. But this past decade was huge for me personally, again, professionally and everything else. I graduated college. I got my master's degree. Went to 2 Wrestlemanias. Met the love of my life. The list goes on and on and on. Met CM Punk. Got to do a lot of cool stuff. Read for a lot of cool websites. Got paid for my writing. Something I never really thought was imaginable at one point. Made it a goal of mine to continue writing and, and entertain people through writing and shit like that. So it was really cool. And I'm looking forward to seeing what WWE has in store for 2020, the year 2020, the decade ahead. But I would argue, as people say all the fucking time, that it has never been a better time to be a pro wrestling fan than right now. There's so much cool stuff to look forward to in WWE. I know we can shit on the product, but with all the wrestling that's out there, all the talent that's out there, all the shows that are available to watch, the streaming services and everything else, there has never been a better time to be a pro wrestling fan than right now. So I'm very excited for the future, to say the least. With all that being said, I got to get out of here. My nose is just getting more and more congested. I sound sick. I'm not that sick, trust me. It's just for whatever reason, I can't breathe through my nose. I blame Alexis. But anyway, thank you guys for sticking with me through the entire decade and beyond. I appreciate it. Here's to an even better 2020 and the better decade ahead. But thank you, as always, for sending in your questions for this episode of #AskGSM, the premiere episode of 2020. Be sure to tweet me on the Twitter machine for your questions, at WrestleRant with the #AskGSM. Find me on Facebook at facebook.com/Graham_the_GSM.Matthews. Leave a comment on the post I usually put up on Tuesday nights, if not on the wall itself. And drop your question down below in the comment section on this very video. I'll include your question in next week's edition. So we should be back to business as usual next Wednesday. No holidays, none of that shit. I appreciate you guys taking the time out of your New Year's Day to listen to this, so I appreciate it. I know it's going up a lot later than expected. It's probably going up during Dynamite, so it is what it is. But anyway, guys, have a great rest of your week, great rest of your 2020, and a great rest of your decade ahead. With all that being said, I'm Graham GSM Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road in 2020.